We've got now Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott joining me. Isabel, wow, what an afternoon. You can see the sort of great and good of the American establishment turning out, from the Broliarchy to the Democrats. And the biggest smile on the face seems to be Donald Trump's.
Well, it was very powerful to watch that ceremony. And, I was struck by just how heavily religious it is, and that is a differentiation, I think, between the UK and the US. Like, it's hard to imagine a ceremony quite as laden with prayer and references to God in the UK as that one. And wasn't it an extraordinary thing just to look at the expressions on the faces of the various players there, some poker faces, some struggling to hide their absolute joy. JD Vance's wife just looked absolutely overwhelmed with joy, didn't she?
Cute kids as well. Look, I mean, Joe Biden's smiling, Bill Clinton's smiling, Hillary less smiley, but the person, I have to say, looks like she's going to a funeral all in black was Kamala Harris. Hard moment for her.
Yeah, indeed, a very, very tough moment for her, but at least she showed up, which is more than can be said for Michelle Obama. I heard you talking about that earlier with one of our other presenters, and you were saying you don't think there's any great scandal.
What do you
going
reckon?
there.
I suspect she just can't really be, can't really be bothered to put the full smile on. She clearly hates Trump. I don't think the Obamas have ever really forgiven him for all of those rumours about whether Obama was really born in America, which kind of hurtled Trump onto the scene back in sort of 2014, 2015. What do you reckon? Do you think it's something, am I missing something here?
I don't know. I've got no inside information on it. I'd love to have, but it just strikes me as a hell of a protest. If it's only about the politics of it and just not wanting to give it the time of day. Come on, I mean, choose your occasion. I don't know. You'll be aware that there's rumors about the state of their marriage. I'm not in America right now. I haven't spoken to any good sources on this. But it's a hell of a symbolic omission, isn't it? To not come to that event.
She wasn't there. It's not the first time we've seen Obama stepping out, former President Obama stepping out alone, is it? He was at Jimmy Carter's funeral a couple of weeks ago. No Michelle there. Could it be that perhaps, she's harbouring political ambitions of her own yet, and she doesn't want to be tainted with the Trump standing next to Trump smiling and clapping?
I don't know. I mean, if ever there had been a time for her to have run, if the mechanics of it could have been orchestrated, it would have been when Biden clearly had to sort of step aside because the game was up. There's a lot of speculation cast back a year and a half or so that it would be Michelle Obama running on the Democrat ticket. And clearly that didn't happen. I mean, I think she could have probably done tremendously well, whatever you think of her husband's performance as a president. She's an incredibly dazzling woman in her own right. And I think she could have certainly done a bit better than Harris. It wouldn't have been hard, though, would it?
There's a sort of liberal, sort of misty-eyed looking back at how how Obama did. He wasn't a great president. He was a great speaker, but you can count on one or two hands the things he really did that got over the line. It just kind of shows you. I always look at that footage whenever you see the sort of American elite out in force, and you just think it went Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, then Clinton tried again, and now we're talking about another Obama coming again. The Democrats just don't have a Trump figure, do they? Who's going to be the sort of lightning rod? Who's going to be the sort of opposition? Because I think, looking at that footage of that, they're all ancient or past it.
Yeah, and I think for anyone to go up against Trump, obviously Trump can't run again after this, and we're only just welcoming him in at this point, so it seems a bit ridiculous to be looking ahead to the next one. But it's going to have to be someone with an enormous personality, someone who surprises the American voter by not being a kind of straight up and down establishment figure. And as you say, no one has come forward or emerged from the pack on the Democrat side yet. But the thing is that at this point, they don't seem to accept that their candidate was quite the failure that she was. There are certain senior figures in the Democrat campaign team saying it was a brilliant campaign.
Well, it wasn't. It was rubbish. If you ask me. Just some breaking news we're getting today is that as his last act as president, Joe Biden has mysteriously not only pardoned his son Hunter, but preemptively pardoned a whole load of his relatives. Am I going mad here? Why would they need a preemptive pardon if they haven't done anything wrong?
Well, you might well ask. I mean, it does seem a very, very odd thing to do. I guess he's got some inside knowledge of something that's coming down the track. I mean, these pardons are quite incredible, aren't they? And the full detail hasn't yet come out, but he's really gone for it, exercising that last hurrah. It's a bit like, when our prime ministers leave office and create all these peerages. That's the equivalent, isn't it? The blizzard of revenge honours and gongs to an outgoing prime minister's friends and supporters is often pretty shameful.
Leaves a bad
and this is
smell.
Sort of equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah, it does leave a bad smell, and I suspect I wonder how a court of law might uphold a preemptive pardon for a crime that we don't know what it is yet. And all very mysterious. Let's talk about Trump, though. We're hearing he's going to do 200 executive orders today. Obviously, the flick of the pen is the most powerful bit of the executive power that the president has, and he's starting early. I mean, it's almost like a wish list for the sort of global right, isn't it? He's rowing back on green stuff. He's pulling out of Paris. He's drilling through Alaska. He's going to stop the mandate on electric cars. He's going to abolish DEI programs. He's going to ban pronouns in government buildings. He's going to legislate for two genders. This is the stuff that Reform, the Tories over here, could only dream of doing.
Well, absolutely. And I think what will be incredibly interesting to observe is just how effective he can be with these mandates, with these executive orders, and whether at a state level there are plenty of ways round them. And from the point of view of UK politics, the extent to which this changes the mood music around some of the things that are at the heart of our current political agenda. For example, you mentioned net zero, clearly absolutely central to Keir Starmer's government and pursued with almost demonic zeal by Ed Miliband. And if the US is pulling in the opposite direction, busy unraveling a lot of that, electric car mandates and oil and gas drilling licenses, and the UK is kind of doing our trifling little bit on the side of insisting on being a world leader in all of this stuff, how much does that actually percolate the public mood here? I feel like already the mood on net zero is beginning to shift, but it's taken quite some time. And you can imagine a scenario in the run-up well before the next election where that becomes a much more important issue in terms of voter priorities, as they see how much it's costing them the net zero agenda, and they see that actually in America, there is another way of doing things.
Energy independence and growth figures that we'd give our left arm for at times. This is a bit of a nightmare for Keir Starmer. If you talk about the shifting of the Overton window to the right, Britain's sort of an outlier everywhere else, and the fact that as the sort of rest of the West, from Canada to Australia to France to Germany to America, starts to tilt towards the right, we've gone the other way and to the left. It's going to make Keir Starmer's life incredibly hard, isn't it?
I think it absolutely will. And I think that relationship between Farage and the new president will be a running sore. Of course, as you rightly said, I heard you earlier on talk, Starmer he'll go over there, he'll go to Washington, Trump doubtless will come to the UK, everyone will go through the motions. But the reality is it's Farage who's got the White House key figures on speed dial. It's Farage who's busy WhatsApping key people in the administration. This is the real channel of communications, and that's humiliating for Keir Starmer. And I think it's just going to be very, very corrosive to an administration here in the UK that is already absolutely foundering only 6 months in. What's that going to look like a year from now?
Luckily,
opposition parties on the march, opposition parties so closely aligned to the US administration.
Well, luckily, the Prime Minister is known for his nimble political tactfulness and ability to react quickly to situations. So we'll see how it goes. Isabel Oakeshott, thank you very much for joining us.